Started the recording. Welcome to today's session. So, we have covered a lot in the OCaml docs pages. We've done the tour of OCaml. We have gone through values and functions. Uh, we've gone through data types and pattern matching, the lists, loops, and recursions. We've gone through all of those pages. So, throughout we have been mostly using the OCaml playground. So today I want to show you how to use opam and use opam switches. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. So let me paste the links in the chat, and this is the documentation that we're going to start. So we're going to basically install opam, install a variant of the OCaml compiler, install some packages locally, and show you how to use that. So that's the agenda for today. I'll also briefly touch upon opam switches. So it's useful to know about that in this context. So let me quickly paste the links in the chat. So it's the OCaml docs that we've been going through, and we're going to start with the installation. Okay. So I am on this Ubuntu 22.04 LTS machine. So this is what I am currently using for the demo. And so we will be installing this using the documentation that I shared in the chat. Right. So the first step is to actually install the opam package manager. It's using this command given here. Okay. Of course, there are other installation methods. So I'll just quickly show you and demonstrate the steps here. Let me copy this clipboard, and then I'm just going to paste it here. So just an install script. You can read the script on GitHub, and when I hit enter, it downloads the latest opam, which is 2.1.5. It's asking if it needs to be installed in user local bin. I'm just hit enter to take the default value. Just going to give my sudo password, and then so it's actually installed. So if I just say which opam, it tells me that it's installed in user local bin. So that's the first step of installing opam. Now, in order to install a compiler, you need to understand the concept of switches. So switches is like get branches. It's a logical concept. You can have different OCaml compiler variants installed within the same user account system, and you can switch between them. So hence the idea of using opam switch. So the way to use is you do opam switch. It tells me that we have not actually initialized anything yet. So it asks us to run opam init. So let's initialize our local opam setup. So it's using defaults. There are some, it will prompt for some packages. I have git installed, rsync installed, so it doesn't ask it to install those packages. Then it goes and fetches the latest repository information, and from there it will fetch the latest compiler, and then it will install this on the local home folder. Okay. So this is the step that we are currently doing. We're doing opam init, and depending on your internet connection, it might take some time. Of course, you can install these other packages that are required on your system. This is for Mercurial and Dark CS if you want to use those repositories as well. So we just give it some time to do the initialization. Meanwhile, I'll also go to the other documentation which tells you how to install OCaml on, say, Unix and Mac OS systems. So if you're using Homebrew, for example, you can do brew install opam, right? And or if you're using Mac ports, you can do port install opam. So here is prompting me to modify the profile. I'm just going to say yes, hit continue. So it currently creates an initial switch default and is trying to get the latest version. Now, of course, you can read the actual output messages here. So it tells you that you can do the user configuration in .bash rc and make sure your profile is also well sourced. Right. Once it is done, if you want to update the environment, just have to call eval $opam env. So now it is installing some important packages like base packages. Then it is currently installing the OCaml base compiler version 5.1.1. So that's what it's actually installing on your local system. I'll tell you where exactly it is installing. It's running .configure, and then it will do make to build the compiler. Alright, so coming back to our installation on Mac, you can use brew or port. On Debian Ubuntu, here you can use apt install if you're using the package manager's version of opam, but generally if you want to get the latest one, I'd recommend using that this bash script given here, this one. This is the script. Okay. And if you're an Arch, because you can use Pacman. You can use binary distribution versions on Unix. After you install opam, you can initialize it here. And of course, as I said, you have to evaluate the environment to use eval. On Windows, this steps involves using the DKML distribution. I don't have a Windows or Mac system here, so I won't be able to demonstrate that to you. So by default, what we are doing here is we are creating a default switch. You can specify a switch name, for example. I will later give you an example after I cover opam switch and how we can create a default switch. And we'll install some of these tools as well. Let me paste this link to you also on the chat while this installation is completing. So the location where the installation occurs is in your home.opam folder. So that is given here. And of course, right now we are also updating the .profile to make sure that it picks up all the executables, the libraries, everything from this .opam folder, so that whenever you open a terminal, you are able to start using the packages. Now once this is done, what I want to do is install some OCaml platform tools like the Dune build system. We'll install ODoc, which is used for documentation, OCaml format, and we'll also install UTOP, which is a interactive REPL environment, and you can directly try expressions using the utop. Okay, so that will be the next steps that we want to do. So we just wait for this make on the OCaml based compiler to finish, and once that is done, we will try out some opam commands here. Let me also share you the opam switch documentation page while this installation is still going on. Feel free to ask any questions you might have in the chat. So there are a lot of options for opam. I can do a separate tutorial on how to use opam with all the different configuration options and commands. But right now I'll only cover some basic commands to get you started. Okay. With that, we will have a functional system with a specific OCaml compiler variant, and we will use that to install additional packages. Right, I'll show you how to do that as well, and then you can actually use the local setup. So let's briefly touch upon switches, since we have started to install a default switch. So when we do opam switch list, this will be the output. You have default switch. You can create multiple switches. So you can use opam switch create, give a project name, and you can give a compiler version. If I want to switch to a specific project, I just have to do opam switch and the project name, and then finally I can see what is the current switch I am on by using opam switch. Now, so this is very similar to git branch, but here we have a specific list of packages for a given compiler variant. And you can change between these switches as how you want to work with different packages. Now there are two types of switches. You have a global switch, so you could say have a system-wide installation of opam and all the specific packages for the variant, or you can have a local switch, which is what we currently have, which is going to be in the .opam folder. It is very good for development. When you're doing some deployment, also you can have a specific local switch, or if you're going to just deploy, use a global switch is also another option. You can actually select the different switch using opam switch and the switch name, and yeah, if you want to update the source, the environment settings to make sure on the current switch, you have to use eval with $opam env -- switch name, and then close the parenthesis. So these are things that you have to do before you start to use the specific switch and the environment associated with the switch. Okay. So this is just a basic introduction to using opam as a switch. So let's go back to our installation documentation here, and looks like it's done now. So it's good to read the output. So it installed the base compiler and some additional packages. So it says eval $opam env -- switch equal to default. Okay. So now if I clear it and do opam switch, it tells me I am in a default switch and the compiler variant is 5.1.1. Okay. So we have set up base system. Now if I do opam list, it tells me all the packages that are actually installed for this particular switch. Good. Let's install some additional OCaml platform tools. So the way to do it is opam install. So I'm going to install OCaml LSP server, useful for integrating with editors, ODoc, OCaml format, and then I'm going to install utop as well. So it will check the repository of packages. It will find the latest version of the relevant packages, and then it will also check the corresponding dependencies to make sure the dependencies for these packages are actually met for this specific compiler variant, right, for 5.1.1. And then it will resolve those dependencies, and then it should list all the dependencies that are going to be installed, and then it will prompt you and it will basically ask you if you want to proceed with installation. So you can install any package. You can also explicitly specify a version of the package that you want to install. So that is also an option. So here it's finished the dependency resolution, and I'm just going to say S, and then it goes and it fetches there's about 198 packages that need to be installed here. So it's going to take some time. It will download the packages and it will make them available in the .opam folder. So while this is running, let me quickly also show you what is there in the .opam folder. So we have a default switch, right, and then of course it has the binaries. So we have the OCaml compiler, it has other OCaml doc tools, we have lec and yark tools and so on, object information. So anything that the compiler toolchain requires, all this is there in the bin folder. Then we have the libraries, the packages that got installed along with the compiler. They are also available in this .opam folder, right. And then if we look at documentation, we have some documentation, readmes and licenses available here, and then look at manual pages there, and then some share folder entries. Okay, this is how the opam folder exists. And if you don't want this installation, what you can do is just remove this .opam folder, and you can remove the user local bin opam file, and that's how you can simply delete the local opam installation. Okay, I'm not going to do it right now because our packages are still getting installed in order to use these tools like OCaml LSP server, ODoc, and so on. Let me quickly also show you these opam pages. So if we ODoc is the documentation generator for OCaml. It directly reads doc comments from the source code, and can output in different formats, cross-referencing, code highlighting, linking to source codes, all that is available in ODoc. Then of course we have OCaml UTOP. So it is a interactive interface. It's called universal top level, right? I'll show you this in the terminal. You can do interactive checking for syntax and expressions. You can try it out. Same thing what you did in the OCaml playground, but it's on the terminal, right? Okay. Okay, we're almost finishing up with this installation. Of course, LSP server is useful when you want to integrate with your editor, that is Emacs, Vim, or VS Code. So having that integration with a larger code base allows you to see the syntax highlighting, do code navigation, check for functions. All of those things are quite useful with the LSP server. Yeah, please feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and I will make this recording available after this session. So we're almost done here with installing the OCaml platform tools. So after this, I will show you how to use UTOP, the universal top level, and this will have a very colorful interface, and it also prompts you for auto completion. So you can use it for finding methods in specific modules and so on. All right, so we're almost done with this installation of the packages. Now it does give you some hints for setting up later on. When I set up for Emacs, I will tell you how to do this, and similarly there are instructions for Vim as well, so you can actually follow this to set this up. Okay, so now just to verify this, if I do opam, let's confirm we are on the right switch 511, and if I do opam list, I see all those packages installed here, right? That's good. So now let's verify UTOP. So we just run UTOP and I hit enter. It is a nice colorful interface. So all those expressions that we tried earlier in playground will work here, but specifically I want to show you the inputs that we couldn't try on the playground, right? So we can do the read line definition, for example. You still have to use the double semicolon, so that's required. And then what I can actually invoke this function here. It prompts me here, unlike the playground, so I can give some example like hello world, and it returns a string, right? So that's how you can interactively use UTOP. If you install specific packages, again you can do dot for a module, and then it will tell what functions are available, so it's quite useful there. And you can also exit this using exit 0 and double semicolon, right? So that's UTOP. Now we are on the default switch, so let's go back to the switch example documentation here, right? So let me clear this output. So if I do opam switch list, it tells me I'm on the default switch. Now I can create a new switch. Or let's check the opam switch help options. right? So it opens the man page, and so this is what I used here, list available ones. Okay, list install switches, list available shows all the available switches. So let's try that. So this searches the available compiler variants, and it gives you the variant name and some description on that. So for Mirage OS Unix kernels, we mostly use 4.14, right? So let me try to create one switch, opam switch create. Let's call the project as 4.14, and I specifically want to install the 4.14.2 version. Okay, so I'm going to do opam switch create, and then again it goes and fetches the corresponding tarball for 4.14.2 OCaml base compiler variant. It will check the required base packages and any dependencies that are required to install 4.14.2 version, right? And then it will download those relevant packages, it will build it, and then it will install the corresponding packages again in the same .opam folder, right? So that's where all the installation happens. So again, this is a example of a local switch, right? So I can use OCaml 5.1.1 for doing some testing, and I can switch to 4.14. So maybe let's say that I'm developing on 4.14, and then I want to try it on 5.1 to see if my code still compiles, it works fine, and so on, right? So in that context, you can have multiple these switches on the local environment, just as how you have Git branches. So the same concept, it's a logical concept, and then you can test it on maybe newer development branches like trunk, for example, right? So this allows you to have multiple installations of different compiler variants and different packages on your system, and everything is contained in the .opam folder. That's where the setup is. I'll also show you where this 4.14 exists in the .opam folder. So again, in the default switch setting, we've seen that it actually ran configure, and now it's actually running make. Right. So once that is done, it will again give you instructions to update the environment settings. So we will have to do this eval $opam env switch, and you give the switch name. So in this case, it will be 4.14, and once this is done, we will be in the environment of the 4.14 switch. Okay, and we'll again compare the list of packages that got installed between 4.14 and the 5.1.1 switch. So we actually installed utop on the 5.1.1 switch. It's not we've not yet installed this on the 4.14 switch. So you will basically see the difference in the packages. So let's wait for the 4.14 compiler to finish. Meanwhile, let me go back and show you the utop documentation. So the place to find about packages is you have to go to opam.ocaml.org, right? And so here it gives you more information regarding OPAM, latest news, updates, releases, how to contribute, some documentation on installation, creating packages, and so on. And if you go to packages, it gives you a list of all the packages, and you can search for packages. So let's say I search for utop. So the latest one is 2.14.0, and in this documentation it tells the author of the package is Jeremy here, the license, when it was published, the home page for the source code, the issue tracker, the email of the maintainer, the dependency list of packages, and the lower bound on the variants for the versions, right? And source, tarball, and the opam location. Right, you have some same thing required by the packages that are dependent on utop, and there's some optional packages that use this as well. So it's kind of useful to see this information per package. Of course, you can select the drop down and pick the one version that you want to verify. For example, utop 1.11 could probably have a specific version of lambda term that is required. So you might want to use this for checking. So this is where you would actually go and check for the packages. Let's see if our switch has been created. It's still running make. Okay. So let's explore some other packages in opam. So there are over 4,600 packages, right? So this page usually gets updated here. There's also the opam manual. Now I'm not going to go through the manual, but if you want to try out specific examples, I will look at the specific commands here and refer to the specific sections. So you already seen the opam switch create repos default. If you want to have your own opam repository instead of opam.ocaml.org, what you can also do is use opam repository and add the name and URL. So this could be a specific URL that you want to use for packages. We briefly went through the switch, opam switch and switch name. We can set the environment for a specific switch using this eval $opam env switch command. You've seen that. And generally, you want to, if you change a switch, you want to run this eval $opam env to ensure that the environment is correctly switched. Right. Because it's quite detailed, and we are not going to go through the manual right now, but we have covered the basic commands in using opam to list the packages installed, to create a new switch. How do you change between those switches? So right. The package dependencies, let's take another example here. Go to packages. Let's take utop again. Yeah, sometimes they will have an upper bound. Some packages may not have an upper bound. So in this case here we see that lambda term has given explicit upper bound of less than 4.0, and later on I will also tell you about the Dune build system, how you can actually build your first hello world package. So Dune is the tool that is used for that, and alcotest is a tool that is used for running test. So when you build the project with the test option, this alcotest will also get built. Okay, so when you go through the next section, when you go through actually building your first hello world package, we will go through that. So this is done. So now it tells you to run eval opam env -- switch equal to 414. If I run opam switch, it tells me now I am 414. So how do I also verify this? If I say opam list, it tells me the packages that got installed in 414. It doesn't have utop. We installed utop only in 5.1.1 switch. So let's try to switch to that. So if I do opam switch default, which is the 5.1.1 version, it asks me to run eval opam env, and if I quickly check the switch, it tells me now I am in the default switch. Now if I do opam list, it will of course return me all the packages that we installed earlier, and also you will also see utop here, which is the 2.14.01 which we installed, the latest one. Now let's also quickly check the .opam folder, how it looks. So we see that there is a default one for 5.1, and now we have one for 4.14, and similar structure. We have the bin, the doc, lib, man, everything, and in the default folder, we look at libraries, we see all those packages available here. But if you look at the 4.14 packages, it's only the minimal ones that got installed when creating the switch. Okay, so this is the basic setup on creating the environment, installing the OCaml compiler and packages, and also setting up the basic OCaml development tools on the terminal on Ubuntu. Please give that a try. I will post this video on the YouTube channel. I have also uploaded the past videos in the OCaml playlist, so please go through that. The commands for today's session are also updated in the Twitch repo. Let me share that link as well, and then we will stop for today. So let me paste the channel link for the videos. And then the GitHub repo for all the notes from today's session and the past sessions are available there. So let me stop the recording. And I'll see you again on Thursday.